started with supplies. You'll need some tracing paper, a sleeve pattern. We're using our Erica pattern, pattern weights or tape, scissors, and a marking tool. You can use a pencil, but we're using a Sharpie so you can see it clearly on video. Grab your sleeve pattern, fold it in half, and push it towards the top of your paper. We're going to be making our pattern adjustments down in this area, so you want to leave plenty of space to work with. Now, secure your pattern to your paper. We prefer using pattern weights because they don't tear your pattern paper, and the pattern weights we're using are from Thanks I Made Them, and we'll make sure to link those below this video. First, you're going to transfer your grain line, and I'm using a tracing wheel. And I'm going to move the pattern out of the way just enough so I can draw over that grain line to make it visible. I can see the dots in my paper, but we're going to make sure you can see them too. Okay, reposition your pattern piece. We will be adding a seam, and this will be the seam that will be on the top of your arm. So we need to add our seam allowance. We are going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance along this edge. Next, trace around your pattern. It's helpful to fold out the pattern just a bit so you can get the proper edge of your sleeve piece. Because there are slight differences between the front and the back edge of a sleeve pattern, it's not exactly mirrored. You do want to get that out of the way so you can trace the perfect edge. Now make sure to transfer any markings or notches on your pattern piece. Find that top of that underarm seam and make a dot. We're going to come directly across the pattern and make another dot. From the top of that cap, we're going to make a guideline 10 inches long. And then extend out, no particular length, this is just a guideline. From the top of that cap, again, extend 4 inches. Now we're going to join the guidelines we just made, starting from this point and connecting the 4-inch guideline we just made. We're going to carry that line all the way to our very top guideline. Look on the outside of that cap, right where it starts to curve down, and we're going to make another dot. Then we're going to connect that dot with our guideline. The piece that you've just created is going to be the extension at the top of the sleeve cap that we're going to be gathering. Now this is your new pattern piece for the front of your sleeve. Go ahead and cut it out. Now we need to create a mirror image for us to have a back pattern piece that will have our double notches. It's best to repeat the steps using the back edge of the pattern piece because sleeve patterns are usually not mirror images. So go ahead and create the back piece of your sleeve following the steps that we just went over. Now you should have a 2-piece sleeve, your front and your back, And I'm going to flip mine over so you can see the sleeve piece. It really helps to have that visual. Doesn't that look familiar? So we've created a two-piece sleeve with that extension at the top that we'll be gathering from. Now it's time to cut your fabric. Cut 2 of each piece. And then I'm going to turn it over to Danny and we're going to show you how to sew this sleeve together. Take 1 of each from your front and back of your sleeve, right sides together, and then you're going to pin and stitch. The seam that you're going to be pinning and sewing is going to be the seam that we're going to be ruffling for that beautiful, dramatic, puffy sleeve. If you feel like your fabric needs it, Danny did, you can interface the top piece of your sleeve. That will help stand your fabric up, give it a bit more structure, and really create that drama. This will be super helpful, especially when using knit fabrics. Starting from the corner here, all the way to the top, we're going to sew gathering stitches because we're going to gather just like this. So sew those stitches just like Danny has and gather. About 1.5 inches away from your notches, you're going to pleat. And you're going to put in a small pleat about 1/3 inch and pin. Continue pleating along both sides of the cap at about 2-inch increments. It doesn't have to be exact because we are going to gather as well. We felt like the combination of pleating and gathering really brings an added effect and gives you some beautiful depth. Don't worry about that pointed edge at the top. We'll be trimming that off in a later step. Once you've pinned, baste those pleats in place, then go back and sew some more gathering stitches from one side of the sleeve cap to the other. Once you've completed that, then gather. Now you've pretty much completed all of the pattern hack instructions. So continue to put your sleeve together by sewing that underarm seam, setting your sleeve inside your bodice, and repeating on your other sleeve. Continue sewing your pattern according to the instructions and creating your beautiful puff sleeve piece.